Okay, today we're going to look into document work, to document work. So cause and effect, similarity or difference, and turning point. So for these, you'll be using two documents to find a cause and effect, similarity or difference, or turning point between the two documents. Okay. Cause and effect, meaning one thing leads or led to another. Okay. Something caused something else. One thing leads to or led to another. Similarity or difference, something in common or something different, something not in common. And a turning point is defined as an important change. Okay, an important change. It could be in a local area, large area, or a change in history. But the important thing is it is an important change. Now, all three of these follow the same format in the answering. So your first sentence in the answer is an identify. So your very first sentence in every single answer in the mini paragraph is identify the cause and effect, identify the similarity or difference, or identify the turning point. That's your first sentence. And the second through fourth sentence is to explain the how, the why, go into depth, prove. You are proving your claim. Your first sentence, the identify, is the claim, and then you prove it. Okay, and you will be and must be using textual evidence and referencing both documents, information from both documents in your answer to receive the full points. So you will be using textual evidence, and we can cite the evidence you use two different methods. One method is blah, 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 parentheses, doc 1. Or a second method, according to doc 1, or as seen in doc 1, then do it. Both ways cite where you're getting the information from, and it's doubly important to cite your textual evidence with these two document work because your reader is looking for that both document evidence. Without evidence from both document, it is not correct and it won't score the point. Okay, so examining cause and effect first. Did one document cause the other? So did the topic of one document cause the topic of another? So remember, you always look for your document topics. So that's a possibility. One topic could have caused the other. Or did one idea or one thing from one of the documents cause something in the other? So here's your real examples and the real wording that's been used. Identify and explain a cause and effect relationship associated with the historical developments in Doc 1 and 2. Be sure to use evidence from both Doc 1 and 2. Identify and explain a cause and effect relationship between the events and or ideas found in these documents. Be sure to use evidence from both Doc 1 and 2. Okay, advice. It is a 3-ish sentences. Again, it's a mini paragraph. I think the first sentence should be your identify, where you say what caused what. Sentence 2 through 4 is the explain part, where you tell the story and you back up your claim. Mostly you're going to be telling the how did one thing cause the other, okay? Really go into detail. Step 1 went to step 2, step 3, and ultimately we got to the end step. You're using textual evidence from both documents and it is required. Now, I haven't seen, and I don't think they're ever going to give something so obvious, but here's an obvious thing. If you've got events that are dated, the event that is like newer cannot, something that happened later could not have caused something before. So if something happened after, how could that have caused something before? So the earlier thing always causes, the newer thing. One thing happens, another thing happens, this one has to have caused the other. That's if they gave you dates or something like that, or if one thing happened before or after the other. And finally, this is a possible first sentence. The blank Doc 1 caused blank Doc 2 to occur, or something Doc 1 caused something else to occur. That's your identify first sentence. Might work, might not. So here's an example, and quite frankly, this could be an example. I mean, this is historical. It could be. So could be a real world example, right? Document 1, document 2. Magnitude 8.9, earthquake, Japan. Newspaper, thousands flee nuclear danger zone as radiation fear spreads. Identify and explain a cause and effect relationship associated with the historical developments in Doc 1 and 2. Be sure to use evidence from both documents 1 and 2. So I am looking for to clearly state what caused what. Then I am going to explain how one thing or why one thing would have caused the other, and I am going to use information from both documents. So first, the identify. The earthquake shown in Doc 1 caused thousands to flee nuclear danger zone, Doc 2. The earthquake caused thousands to flee nuclear danger zone, Doc 2. Now I am going to explain why one caused the other. In 2011, an earthquake, magnitude 8.9, happened off the coast of Japan. I could have put Doc 1 there. This created a very powerful tsunami. The tsunami impacted and compromised the Fukushima nuclear reactor plant. This led many people to fear a meltdown and the radiation it spreads. Okay, so with other documents, you might find more information that clearly links a cause and effect. For these two documents, I had to know a little history. And remember, some things may be answerable just by examining the documents, but each one is easier when you know the history. When you know the history, everything is easier. Now, you might have been able to get something from the documents, and maybe in future questions you will be able to, but let me assure you, if you know the history, it becomes easier. Identify the cause and effect, cite the documents, give the step-by-step of how and why one thing led to the other. Okay? Earthquake made tsunami impacted the nuclear reactor is going to melt down. People fear a meltdown, so they went away. Okay, so similarity or difference document work, right? Similarity or difference. What do two things have in common, or what is fundamentally different about them? Okay. The real example question. Identify a similarity or difference between the economic development policies of Mao Zedong and those of Deng Xiaoping. Okay. Document 1 was Mao's economic policy. Document 2 was Deng Xiaoping's economic policy. And I remember some similarities might be, they both wanted to help China. A difference would be Mao didn't like foreign economies and trade. Deng Xiaoping was opening China to the world, so that would be a difference, okay? Real world example there. And then explain the similarity or difference you identified using evidence from both documents. Once again, it's an identify, explain. Now, once again, 3-sentence mini paragraph. Folks, focus in on it. Or. Choose one. It is either a similarity or a difference. We have never seen an and question, okay? You get to pick what you want, a similarity or a difference. Textual evidence will come when you explain the similarity or difference. When you're explaining it, you're probably going to use your textual evidence, and the explain is very important. Maybe not. You'd like to mention how big the similarity is, if it's a really, really powerful similarity, or how big the difference is. Maybe you'd like to mention that, maybe not. Here's an example. Document 1. Document 2. So here's an example where you could literally examine the documents without knowing the history, and you could probably come up with a good similarity or difference, okay? So you don't have to know the history on this one right here. Question, identify a similarity or difference between the actions of the two cats. Then explain the similarity or difference you identified. So choose a similarity difference, then explain it using evidence from both docs. Answer. A, I chose a difference. A difference between the actions of the two cats is their reasons for moving. In document 1, okay, so there's the identify the difference. Now I got to use both documents and explain what the heck I mean. In document 1, we see Mimi is running away from the Dalek. Her swipe is ineffective and she runs away. Lufty's motivation is different. Her wide eyes, document 2, show that she is pouncing on something and not running from it. Notice a couple things. I did the two documents differently. In document 1, we see Mimi is running away. That is one way to cite a document, saying in document 1. And then here, her wide eyes, parentheses, doc 2, that's citing doc 2. Now I chose the difference in their motivation. How about a similarity? Well, how about another difference? 3 legs, 4 legs, and then I could explain how that makes it different for them. Similarity. Both are reacting to an object. Both are reacting to an object. And then I would say one is running from the object, one is, although one is running from the object and one is pouncing on it, they are both reacting to an object. That's a similarity. And remember, I made a claim that they had different reasons for moving, so I have to back that up with textual evidence. And finally, a turning point. Okay, turning point is translated as an impactful or large change. So a change that matters. It's called a turning point. Now, this change can be local in an area, regional, world, or it could be a change in history. The only thing is, it has to be a change that impacts people, big enough that we're talking about it. So the real examples of the question they gave: identify a turning point associated with the historical developments related to both Docs 1 and 2. So identify a change that Doc 1 and 2 is showing. And then explain why the historical developments associated with the documents are considered a turning point. You're basically proving that it's an important change. Be sure to use evidence from both documents. Now, sometimes when you're explaining, you might want to focus in, because it is a change. Life was one way before, and then the turning point happened, and life is a different way now. So focusing on how life was different before and after often is a good explanation of the actual change, or at least the impacts of the change. Okay. These 2 documents, you cannot do this unless you know the history, okay? But I'm just using these documents. But this is a case where you really need to know the history. And in fact, a lot of turning points really get helped when you do know the history. It's easier to answer. Identify a turning point associated with the historical developments related to both Doc 1 and Doc 2. Identify, state what the turning point is. It's where you have to come up with what the change is that you see. Then explain why the historical developments associated with these documents are considered a turning point. Why is it a turning point? Be sure to use evidence from both documents. So it's like, here's the change. Now, why is it a turning point? Well, because things are very different afterwards than they were before. So step 1, identify the turning point. A turning point associated with this lifting is the change in events from the squat to the curl. That's my turning point. Now I have to explain why it's impactful, why it's a big deal, what it really means to the history. Document 1 shows a lifter reaching his peak squat. This was his best squat, 300 pounds, at a body weight of 194. Document 2 shows a competition curl of 94 pounds at 163 pound body weight. The turning point was very impactful because it led to a major shift in training and ultimately more success in competition. I could go farther, say the squat in the basement no one cared about and it wasn't that good comparatively, whereas the curl was in competition. Here we just use TE when it's needed. We don't know what kind of textual evidence is going to be there, and so we use whatever we need to get our claim backed up. And there you have it. When given 2 documents, you could be asked, did one thing cause the other? Is there a similarity or difference between things in the document? Or do the documents show a major turning point in an area or history? All right, thanks for watching.